Hey, everybody. You're about to hear a brief retelling of the cartoon 9. Enjoy the movie. A man makes a rag doll and remembers how artificial intelligence was created, which ruined mankind. The doll, with the number 9 on its back, dropped onto a table and began to study itself and the environment around it. 9 found some kind of artifact with mysterious symbols and the corpse of a man lying at the bottom next to the table. 9 opened the shutters and saw that he was in the attic of a dilapidated house in the middle of an empty city. He saw someone downstairs, but he couldn't call out. He doesn't know how to speak. Putting the artifact inside himself, 9 ran outside. In the car, he saw the bodies of a mother and child. A noise was heard among the ruins and a light came on. The 9th was frightened and hid around a corner. He attacked the stranger, who turned out to look like a rag doll. But the creature took no offense and called himself 9th's friend. The man with the number 2 and a candle on his head seemed to be able to help. He took a speaker out of the old doll and put his friend inside, but he almost blew himself up playing with the cartridge. Finally, the 9th spoke, and the other found an artifact inside it that he said should save them. A growl was heard nearby, and the 2nd ordered his friend to hide in a barrel. He himself is attacked by a huge predatory creature made of bones and scrap metal. After injuring the 2nd one, it tries to get to the 9th one as well, but the candle-headed one distracts the predator on himself. The robot grabbed the 2nd one with its teeth and dragged it along with the mysterious artifact towards the huge factory. The 9th was left alone again, now with a damaged arm as well. Soon he was noticed and picked up by another man. He had only one eye and the number 5 on his back. The 5th patched up our hero and wondered what had happened to the 2nd. Just then the first little man entered the room wearing a cloak and carrying a poser. Apparently, he is one of the main ones, because he gives orders and is accompanied everywhere by bodyguards with a big sword. The shelter of the men was in the church. The big man pushed the 9th and the 5th into a bucket and began to lift them to the top. Then the first one began his story about how one day he woke up and saw the world collapsing. There was a terrible war between humans and machines, and there were 8 rag dolls in all. The first one woke up before the others, so he took command. The humans had no chance against the battle robots, but to destroy all life at once, including even plants and microbes, the machine sprayed poisonous gas. It did not affect only the dolls. The machines didn't even notice. They got to this shelter and waited for the war to end. All the humans were exterminated. The machine stalled. There is only one monster left, who constantly seems to be looking for something, so the dolls are forbidden to go outside. The ruler is even forbidden to save the other one. On the highest tower of the building was equipped with an observation point. The 2nd from here often looked out for 9 and hoped that he would one day appear and change everything. The 9th convinces the 5th to break the band and go to the factory to rescue their friend. One-Eyed at first wanted to stay here, but changed his mind and took the map and set off on a dangerous journey. Soon, they found the spear and hat candlestick of the other. Now they need to find a tunnel that will lead them to the factory. Despite a violent storm, they managed to do so. But it did not make them happier, because there were also the tracks of a predatory machine. To go was not so scary. The 9th scopa, hats, batteries, and light bulbs built a lighting device. And he didn't even realize how he did it. The little men found themselves in a huge production facility. Going downstairs, the 9th heard the mechanical growl again. The light bulb had to be turned off. Next, a 2nd birdcage was imprisoned in the room. An iron monster was rummaging around nearby. It spotted the dolls and attacked them. The trio tries to fight back, but they are too weak against such a hulk, and then another little man appears. First he knocked out the predator's eye, and then he cut off its head in one fell swoop. This was the 7th. It had long ago ignored the 1st's inhibitions and was used to surviving in the outside world. The 9th again found an artifact with strange symbols. He inserted it into a suitable socket and glowing, the artifact sucked the soul out of the 2nd, leaving only a rag shell. Once saturated, a huge machine awoke, with a bunch of tentacle manipulators. 7 helped everyone over the cliff and started the conveyor belt in the process. The trio miraculously managed to escape and hide from the horrible mechanical monster. They ran into the pipe, where the octopus could not get in. Thanks to this, the men managed to escape. Friends reproached the ninth. For some reason, everyone but him knew the artifact could not be applied to the machine. The factory started working again, and the machine began to do what it was created for. The octopus collected various junk, welded some parts to others, and put them on the skeleton of an animal. He made a robot pterodactyl. 7 led the friends to a large library, and 2 more twin humans ran out to meet them, though they were mute, but very inquisitive. They play school here, scanning everything and studying history. 7 asked them to tell them about the monster they had awakened. The twins found the right page in the archives, as well as a newspaper article. It's about a scientist who created an artificial mind. Then the little man showed a propaganda movie about how the robot began to create other fighting machines, which were immediately sent to the battlefield because the chancellor declared war on the whole world at once. But then the machines rebelled against the humans, and the scientist was declared an enemy of the people. Ninth began to ask about the artifact and the socket he had put it in. The one drew symbols from memory. It turned out that the same signs are constantly drawn by the 6th, with which the 9th is not yet familiar. But to get these drawings, we'll have to return to the lair first. The couple managed to find the drawings, but they were immediately grabbed by a boogeyman and brought to the 1st. The local Tark thinks the 9th is doing all this just to take away his power. The 6th appears with one of his drawings. He asks the 9th to remember, but it is not clear what he forgot. Besides, the first one and his bodyguard are in the way. At this moment in the building flew into the winged beast. The 8th protects his master, but even he is too small to fight with such a giant, so the men flee. Bucket elevator flew into the abyss. The 1st escapes on the roof, and the 8th threw a sword at the engine flyer, but the monster did not fall. He launched a harpoon, but missed, and the cable tightened to land it. The humans were backed into a corner, but a Battle 7 appeared and diverted the machine to itself. This iron monster was much stronger than the previous one. Working together, the puppets managed to get the rope into the working mechanism, and that one was about to be pulled inside, but the monster clutched at the mantle of the 1st and began to pull everyone behind him. Reluctantly, the 1st unhooked a piece of cloth, and the robot was blown to pieces by a huge propeller. The church, which served as a shelter for the little men, burned down, and they are already being followed by a robot spy, who recognized the location of the dolls and dragged the remains of the flyer to the factory. The machine found the remains of the 2nd, and planning something terrible, all the little men gathered in the library. The 8th was sent to stand guard outside, but outside he immediately pulled out a magnet and put it to his head to get high. The twins meanwhile found a book on alchemy, and it were drawn the same symbols as on the artifact. The 9th happens when the 1st knows something, because the old man's doll constantly interferes and does not let them get to the truth. The 7th is getting nervous and hates the 1st. The 8th heard some noise and went towards it. Suddenly something appeared in front of the soldier because of hypnotizing him. The same sound was heard by the 1st. To him from the darkness came out of the dead 2nd. From his iris eyes came a hypnotizing flicker. Behind the lure lurked a far more horrible creature that had grabbed the 1st and now wanted to shove it inside itself as well as the 8th. The seamstress began to hypnotize the others as well, but the lure was cut off by the 7th, the little men escaping the sharp scissors. Robo-Snake grabbed the 7th and dragged her into the factory. The first one comes to his senses. Unlike the 9th one, he is not going to save anyone. The little men bury the carcass of the 2nd one. It seems to the 9th that he has known him for a long time, and sending the doll to the last way, it is as if he tears off a part of his soul. The humans have reached the factory. Spy probes are flying around, scanning the area. The 9th asked the 5th to destroy the factory if he didn't go back, and ran to save his battle buddy. The seamstress handed the 8th to the main machine, and the machine sucked the soul out of him and filled with energy. The next one was supposed to be the 7th, but the 9th diverted the attention to the scarecrow. The thread got caught between 2 gears, and they tightened the robot and crushed it. The 9th saved the 7th at the very last moment. The other little men rolled a barrel of fuel to the pipe. The 1st wanted to set it on fire now. The conspirators spotted the spy and turned on the siren. The octopus heard it and sent a robe of spiders after the fleeing little men. The fifth fights with the first not to blow up the factory early and sets fire to the puddle himself when he hears the command from the ninth. The barrel rolled towards the fugitives. They heard it and skipped through the umbrella. The barrel rolled into the shop and a tremendous explosion blew the whole factory apart. A giant pipe fell and almost covered the little men. Ninth hoped that having defeated the machine, they could now live as one big family. I wonder how he knew what a family was. The fifth wanted to put one record, but it rolled away towards the factory. Just at that moment he saw the machine, which was getting out from under the wreckage. He managed to warn the others, but he himself was grabbed by the machine and sucked out his soul. 6 realized that all the souls inside the octopus were alive. Probably they could still be saved. The dolls ran across the destroyed bridge. The damaged canvas collapsed by the machine's suspension. The 7th one wanted to throw it into the abyss, but it managed to cling to the bridge. At the same time grabbing the 6th one, he also became food for the machine. The first 7 intend to destroy it, but the 9th is going to save the souls of his friends. The hero went back to where it all started. In the lab next to the body, he found blueprints and a turntable box. Scientists turned to the 9th and told about how he created an artificial mind that was supposed to make the world a better place, but for the chancellor the machine remained unfinished. It required a human soul to revive it, so he turned to alchemy and the chancellor found an artifact that could revive the inanimate. When the flawed machine awoke, it began devouring other people's souls to fill the void within itself. One day the scientist was able to pull the artifact out of the monster. With its help, souls can not only be taken, but also released. After the scientist made dolls that looked like people important to him and put a piece of his soul into each of them. He gave the last piece to the 9th and then he died. The 9th remembered, he is the scientist, the 1st is the chancellor, the 7th is the wife of the scientist, and the twins are their children. Meanwhile, the rest of the little men load a cannon and fire it at the car. The 9th told them who they were and that they had to atone for the mistakes of the last humans. It was important not to damage the artifact. The machine almost made it to the humans, but got tangled in the barbed wire. If you pull the souls out of it, the machine will die on its own. The machine fired volleys behind the flamethrower, the ammunition detonated and the little men scattered to the sides. The 9th stood in front of the machine. It was ready to kill him. But the 1st realized his mission. The chancellor was feeding the machine with human souls, so he saved the 9th and gave his soul, thus redeeming himself. The 9th took advantage of this and pulled out an artifact. By pressing the right buttons he took all the souls, thus destroying the machine. Only he and his family remained. The scientist gave a piece of his soul to his friends to help him, and to his enemies to give them a chance to repent and pay for their crime. The 8th is the chancellor's bodyguard. The 6th is the engineer whom the chancellor forced to turn on the machine and whose soul it absorbed first. The 2nd is the scientist's assistant and loyal comrade, with whom they worked on the machine for decades. The 5th is the brave doctor who treated resistance fighters to the last. And the 1st is the chancellor. He destroyed the world and died himself, but after his death he proved that even he has a soul. They all fulfilled their maker's purpose. The souls ascended to the heavens, the rain fell, new life began.